Good morning, friends. So last night I was scrolling YouTube and I saw a live pop up from Brandy. Brandy's channel, I believe, used to be called Uncorked with Brandy. Now it's called What the Cluck. I don't know Brandy, but I've watched a few of her videos and enjoyed them. And I've also had her pop in on my comments before. She seemed cool. I know that her and Fancy used to be friends. They had a falling out. They got back together. Like it's the usual Fancy story. But anyway, so I thought I'd pop in on her live and see what they were talking about. They were comparing the Menendez brothers case to Gypsy Rose. Now, to be honest, I really thought that as soon as Fancy saw my name pop up in the comments, that she was probably going to ask Brandy to kick me out. I figured she would be like, oh, it's one of my stalkers, like she does a lot. Would you please block that person? But she didn't. And there was actually a decent conversation. I want to show y'all a little bit of it.
There's nothing we can do about that, right? But then you come out, and I really was hoping for some kind of advocacy platform. And I think that's where a lot of people got so upset, was because she was online doing her makeup and she wasn't advocating. Now she's got some competition because you got the OGs that want to come out.
I like what 1980
Might
said.
not like it.
1980
I like
said,
this. Yeah.
I don't understand how she wants to advocate for prison reform when she said she was free in there and didn't realize it was punishment. Damn.
No, I agree. Fully agree.
I had not
say.
thought of that.
Yeah, we had this conversation the other day, Mac and I did, about that. And when you say that prison was so great, it was better than living with your mama, what prison reform are you fighting for? You don't know.
So even though Fancy and I are agreeing something here, I have got to snark a little bit. It is in my code. It's what I do, and say that it's highly sus to me that whenever I make a point that Brandy is like, wow, that's great. I never thought of that. Fancy's like, yeah, I totally agree. Mac and I just talked about this a few days ago.
You have again, it goes back to the fact that I believe that she steals ideas and stories and tries to make them her own. But because she never experienced the things that she's trying to make her own, she doesn't know how to make it go right. It doesn't sound right. So people are like, that sounds weird.
While I completely agree with Fancy here, this analysis sounds almost self-reflective. What do y'all think?
And in the airport, what I felt from her and Ken was complete annoyance that the focus was not on them.
Yes, I
thought so too. I agreed with that. Yeah,
the Menendez brothers. I don't want to talk about them. That's not me. I want to talk about me.
Something I've wondered about, because I do actually agree with Fancy and Brandy there that Gypsy seemed completely uncomfortable and annoyed to be asked about the Menendez brothers. Didn't we learn that it's a condition of her parole that she's not allowed to have any kind of contact with felons? And at one point, even speaking, I believe it was to Flawless Nina. Hey, did y'all notice that I got her name right there? Flawless Nina. She told her something about how she felt about Nick, and it was reported to her parole as contact with an inmate. So what I've wondered is she actually allowed to advocate for other people who are currently in prison right now, especially for murder? I don't know. It just seems like it could be a conflict with some of her parole conditions. But if that's the case, Gypsy had no business going out there and telling us all that she wanted to be an advocate for prison reform. So, as per usual, everything is circular in the way the Gypsy Rose world turns.
How we looked at things.
Well, here's my thought process on what you're saying. And I like what Millennial's saying right here too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, but what I'm thinking is this. Look, her disabilities were outwardly physical, okay? So if she had said, my mom made me sit in a wheelchair, and obviously I didn't need to sit in a wheelchair, that's provable. 100%. Oh, she's walking. You're right. She doesn't need to be in a wheelchair. 100%. Okay? That is a provable thing. For the Menendez brothers, sexual abuse.
I really couldn't tell what Fancy's point was there, because Dee Dee did make Gypsy sit in a wheelchair when she didn't need to as part of the con. we know, in my opinion, for sure, that Gypsy didn't use the wheelchair all the time, especially not inside the house whenever no one's around. Dee Dee had those windows blocked out so no one could see her, and she tried to keep Gypsy inside, but people that I know in Springfield saw Gypsy out walking around. That didn't really happen whenever they lived in Aurora before they got the house on Volunteer Way, but Gypsy was younger then. But after they got to Springfield, she was getting more independent, older. We all know this, and she was starting to walk around and be visible. I feel like it's likely that her doing that was making Dee Dee freaked out that they were going to be discovered. The con was going to come crashing down around her, and she was probably pretty hard on Gypsy about it. Not saying that she deserved to be stabbed. We don't believe that at all, but I don't think that Dee Dee was an innocent, sweet person who just wanted the best for her child. I just don't.
Truth. I think that is the truth. I don't think that she had that beforehand. So I don't believe my mom was abusing me back when I was 6 years old and spanking me or beating me or whatever the heck, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe the thing about she's beating me with the wire hangers. I don't believe her when she says she was tied to with a dog leash to a bed or to her. I don't believe any of it. I don't believe it. And that's the thing. Like, if you can't believe one story she tells because every single time she changes it, then how in the heck can you believe anything about what they've said about Dee Dee? Christy don't like Dee Dee. We know that. The family didn't like Dee Dee. We know that. And they're all using this as a way to garner money. So I really just honestly, I do not believe anything she says or any of them.
I'm not saying there was no abuse at all. I'm not even I can't even say that. I mean, because we all grow up.
Yeah, I won't ever deny somebody's abuse. I just cannot. I've had it done to me and I will not. It is a hard line for me.
It's just the extent of what she's saying. Like,
right. What millennial is saying. And I agree with that.
Right, where I'm at is, look, parents all are fallible. Okay. None of us are perfect parents. We do damage to our children without having to be completely abusive. Okay. My mother was.
We don't get little books on how to raise them and what to do. So,
exactly. So I feel like everyone goes through some level of trauma, abuse.
In that clip, Fancy was responding to me saying in the chat that I disagree with her that Gypsy was never abused. I don't think that she was abused to the level that she's exaggerated it to be, but that I do believe there was abuse. Fancy says, like you just heard, that she believes that everyone experiences a level of trauma and abuse, which is true, I do agree with, but not everyone who experienced a parent who had some abusive tendencies also had that parent being a con artist that made us a prop of the con, to where our whole life was a prop, a lie for the con.
Like, I tried to take that role. I tried to help Christy in the beginning, and I did a great job of managing quite a bit of it until we just couldn't control it. Like, Gypsy just has ever since the beginning, she just spouts off, and then she realizes that spouting off has consequences. And then she tries to roll it back, but her rollback is never, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, it's like a double down of, let me make up a more
deflecting, a huge deflection.
Yeah, or let me make it worse by making another lie up. Like, and you're like, shit, that didn't help, Gyps. That didn't help.
Not trying to diagnose anybody, but that's personality disorder.
It is. Yeah. But that's the thing. They should have had this day one. They should have been given PR, especially with Lifetime. And I'm going to tell you what, I do not think Lifetime has done her any favors. Mm-hmm. Their editing has not done favors. The shows are not doing favors for her. Nothing. They've done.
Like I said earlier, I do think what Fancy's saying here is true, but once again, it sounds quite self-reflective.
Even after me not talking to her for years because I didn't want to anymore. Right? Because I didn't want to. I didn't believe her. I still defended her. Her things that happened to her that I now go back and look at and go, God, I was so stupid for defending her for that.
Here's where I'm going to say this and let JoJo talk real quick. Here's where, and this is the one thing that I say to you a lot. just like the other day when I called you, and if Becca Scoops is watching, I'm not saying this to be ugly to Becca Scoops, but I was like, fuck you, Becca Scoops. Fuck you for making me see it this way. Because people like Becca and even I've seen millennial stuff, things they'll post that make me go, oh, when it's Fancy that says it. I can't get there with Fancy because for me, in the history, because there was a very long history, I know the damage that was done to Fancy and her hurt and her anger, and I have to sit back and go, is she clouded right now because of that? And there are still times I do think you are, and that's going to be something you have to get through to see.
Right.
It doesn't make any of it wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that it can be.
Well, thank you, Brandy. I appreciate that. And those of you who have watched my video titled Why I Make Videos About Fancy know that this is a big part of my point in having this channel. I wanted to add to the voices that were calling out Gypsy, but also calling out Fancy's excesses and screaming craziness. At that time, Becca Scoops wasn't yet making videos, so she's added another awesomely rational voice, and that is amazing.
I just think she really ran with the narrative. Like I said, I'm not saying every single thing, is a lie. I don't, absolutely. I think she had to have been abused in some way, shape, or form because we all have been. Right. But I'm just saying that doesn't give you a free pass.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
Millennial, I agree with you. And this is the conversation. That's why Rogi's saying what he's saying. This is the conversation Fancy and I have anytime this comes up. This is a common conversation.
When you exit prison, are almost none, and you are not you are not given the skills to change who you are because you're put right back into the same circumstances that put you into jail in the first place, and now you're a felon on top of it. So there should be a better option. That's what I would be doing, especially for someone like her who went through extreme trauma. And all of that shit, that should be what she's advocating for. That is it right there.
I would be.
I like that.
Yeah.
Just like I believe that there should be an advocate in every police station to stop from what happened to Nick.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
Millennial, those that are just listening and not watching the chat, Millennial says, it seems like Gypsy has a lot of resources, just makes bad choices with them. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who supports her and is friends with Christy, I say this often.
So the live was going along pretty good like that. Fancy was accepting pushback well and recognizing, common ground with people that she normally disagrees with. And then some people started coming in the chat, and Brandy and Fancy said that it was exposing the Good Wives Network, but I didn't see any names I recognized. So if it was them, I don't know, they must have been under alts or something. But people started coming in the chat and saying stuff like, Fancy, what about your warrant? What about this? They started attacking Brandy's looks and, going back to stuff in the past and things like that. I understand that some people believe that that is a thing that you should do if you believe a content creator is so bad that they should never ever be platformed. You should try to blow up wherever they're platformed so that they won't be. I can recognize that line of thought as, somewhat valid even whenever I may not agree and I don't choose to do that myself. But yeah, so that's what happened. And then we have this little Jim.
Just saying. Dumbass. Wow.
You're all the ones that saying I'm a victim. I didn't say I was ever a victim.
No.
They wind you up and watch you go. That's what they do.
I don't care. They can just go on about themselves. Go away. No one invited you here. No one asked you to come and destroy Brandy's life.
They probably make bets to see who you
let me explain something to y'all. 1980 or whatever the heck her name is, 1880, Millennial. Okay? Millennial doesn't like me. I know that Millennial doesn't like me. She makes content saying she does not like me. But have you seen her be disrespectful in this chat one time to me? No, you have not. Because she has respect for Brandy. So why don't you all just run along and go play in the kiddie corner and leave the adults alone?
Because we don't have people in their chats when I don't agree. I ignore. You know what?
Right. I don't go to your chats.
Well, that was weird. What do I do now, y'all? Should I go buy a pink hat or something? I swear, y'all, I did not kidnap Fancy in that live. I did not kidnap her from the chat. Didn't do it.
on that at all. Great, wonderful. Tell me why you don't agree with me on the fact that I think the Menendez brothers should be out of prison.
Millennial did. Millennial did. I don't agree with what Fancy's saying here. I'd see it this way. Millennial did it.
Right.
Mhm.
But
I did it here and said,
just start chaos in a chat.
So anyway, y'all, I totally recommend that you go check out Brande'S Live, especially for those of y'all who really like listening to the super long lives. It's about 2.5 hours long, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got some good, calm, rational discussion about the case, some compliments to yours truly, and a little fancy freak out.